From Vermont Public, this is The Frequency. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. It's Wednesday, May 14th, and here are today's headlines. Senator Peter Welch is encouraging President Trump to take an active role in passing legislation that would significantly lower the cost of many prescription drugs. Recently, the president issued an executive order that mirrors the language of a bipartisan bill sponsored by Welch. The legislation prohibits the pharmaceutical companies from selling drugs in this country at a price higher than the international average. Welch says the bill would have a huge impact on U.S. consumers because many of the drugs are cheaper in Canada and Europe. Welch says the president could play a key role in persuading Republican members of Congress to support the bill.
Why should the U.S. pay more for the same drug, 2, 3, 4, 5 times more than what they pay in Europe and in Canada, particularly when U.S. taxpayers really funded a lot of the research?
Opponents of the proposal argue it will stifle important research being conducted by the pharmaceutical companies. Governor Phil Scott issued an executive order yesterday that pauses enforcement of a rule that sets requirements for electric vehicle sales. The multi-state plan requires vehicle manufacturers to meet certain EV sales targets for cars and trucks. But in a written statement, Scott said Vermont doesn't have enough EV charging infrastructure, and there hasn't been enough technological advancement for heavy-duty electric vehicles to meet the goals set in the plan. The EV sales rules, which Vermont adopted in December of 2022, required vehicle manufacturers to deliver a certain percentage of zero-emissions vehicles to the state starting in model year 2026. The rules were meant to get more Vermonters using cars and trucks that produced fewer greenhouse gases. Parents, grandparents, and children gathered in downtown Morrisville this past Sunday to rally in support of the birthing center at Copley Hospital, just up the road. The hospital board has said they are considering closing the labor and delivery unit as a way to save money. Patients and healthcare workers in the community said that decision would hurt women and newborns. The next closest hospital delivery unit is 45 minutes away. Mary Kate Shanahan runs Vermont Doula Company and spoke to the crowd.
I have had the pleasure of being at all of the different hospitals in this state, and time again, when I come back to Copley, it is different. It would be a tragedy if this birth center closed.
In a statement, hospital board members said no decisions have been made yet and that they are exploring every option to preserve access to maternity care. A consultant hired by the hospital to review the unit is expected to present their findings this summer. And late last week, the Vermont legislature said cheers to at least another 2 years of to-go cocktails. Bill H339 was born of the pandemic, allowing Vermonters to purchase cocktails to go from bars and restaurants. The bill, which has been extended numerous times since, was set to expire on July 1st of this year. But now Vermont joins 30 other states that are still greenlighting to-go alcohol purchases. The bill now heads to Governor Phil Scott's desk for his signature. Coming up, finding a primary care doctor is difficult in Vermont, especially in rural areas. We'll hear about a new residency program that could help ease the crunch if it gets the necessary state funding. And we'll hear from 2 more Vermont musicians who entered to win the NPR Tiny Desk Concert Contest, L.B. Lewis and Chris Nicotera. That's all coming up after this. Lots of healthcare experts say Vermont is heading for a shortage of primary care doctors, especially in rural areas. And the problem starts where doctors do their training. A new residency program aims to change that. It just needs state funding. Morning Edition host Jen Jarecki spoke with science and health reporter Lexi Krupp about the program. Here's Lexi.
Right now, there's only one place in Vermont where family medicine doctors can do their training after medical school. That's at the University of Vermont Medical Center. And they are maxed out. They graduate 6 doctors a year, and they can't take any more. So a group of healthcare workers has been trying to set up another family medicine residency program in Vermont, based in smaller communities. I went to Lamoille Health Partners in Morrisville to learn more about it.
Hi, nice to meet you, Melissa.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, this is Nicole.
I met Dr. Melissa Valensky. She's the medical director there, and Nicole Marcheterre, the administrator of this new program. Their offices are across the street from Copley Hospital. There's a view of the mountains outside the front door. Inside, there's a big jungle mural next to pediatric exam rooms.
One day, we hope to have residents here. We think this would be a great place to train future doctors, so. Yeah.
A few years ago, Walensky and her colleagues got $500,000 from the federal government to develop a training program for family medicine residents based at several community health centers around the state. Since then, they've been busy writing curriculum, training faculty, and figuring out logistics. Then, just last month, they officially got academic accreditation for the new program.
So, Lexi, what will this program look like in practice?
To start off, the program would train residents at the health center and hospital in Morrisville and at Gifford Medical Center in Randolph. It's pretty small. They would graduate 4 residents a year. But when they're up and running with a full cohort of doctors, that would add up to some 8,000 patient visits every year. And the long-term plan is to expand this program to other parts of the state at a bunch of health centers paired with nearby hospitals in St. Johnsbury, Rutland, Springfield, St. Albans, and surrounding communities.
So these doctors provide care while they're finishing their training. Is there a bigger goal here?
There's a lot of research showing wherever doctors do their residency training, they're more likely to stay and practice for their careers, especially in rural areas. So this is really a workforce development program. Nicole Marcheterre, the program administrator, called it an investment.
Because if we don't invest in this now, then what's going to happen in 5 to 10 years for these organizations that then don't have doctors and can't actually provide services to their patients?
Okay, so more doctors training and staying in rural communities, which sounds great. But I gotta wonder, Lexi, is there a catch?
Well, it turns out it's really expensive to train residents. Some estimates put this at about $200,000 a year per student. There is a federal program to help cover most of these costs, and it's championed by one of Vermont's very own senators.
We expanded the Teaching Health Center program, which will enable residents to do their work in primary healthcare facilities rather than just large teaching hospitals.
That's Senator Bernie Sanders in an interview with Harvard School of Public Health last year. But in the first few years, while the program is getting up and running, Dr. Walensky says there would be a big funding gap.
There are a lot of variables at play, but over 4 years, it's basically $1 million a year to get to that point.
Recently, she testified to lawmakers, asking for $4 million. She's optimistic the state will cough up at least some of this funding. Then they can start recruiting their first class of residents. Those doctors would arrive next summer, in July of 2026. But that's contingent on state funding. Until there's a finalized budget out of Montpelier, they'll have to wait and see.
That was Science and Health reporter Lexi Krupp speaking with host Jen Jarecki. Thousands of musicians from across the country entered to win this year's NPR Tiny Desk Contest, hoping to be featured on one of the biggest stages in music media today. The annual Tiny Desk Contest provides an unsigned artist with the opportunity to record one of the namesake shows and get all the exposure that comes with it. This year's winner was rapper, singer, and spoken word artist Ruby Ibarra, a native of the Philippines who lives in the Bay Area of California. But nearly 40 artists from Vermont also submitted entries this year, and we've been sharing a few in the lead up to NPR announcing the winner. And we're not about to stop now. In this episode, we'll hear from Elby Lewis and Chris Nicotera.
This is Chris Nicotera. I live in Morgan, Vermont, up in the Northeast Kingdom. Been a musician most of my life. I think my parents wanted to keep me from becoming a juvenile delinquent. They thought that music lessons might help, and it did. So I went to school for music and music education. Spent my whole career teaching in the elementary school in Derbyville. Taught guitar for 50 years. I'm retired now, so I just get to play and practice and compose a new piece of music. This song had been kind of percolating inside of me for a while. Most of the guitar music that I've played has had a Spanish flavor to it, and I wanted to write my own original that was in that Latin American or Spanish style of music. And I think that the Green Mountain Lullaby fits that. I get to see the Green Mountains outside my window, just looking out and seeing the spine of the Green Mountains. And it was generally a soft, gentle piece. The second section moves a little bit more quickly, but the first and then the last section seemed to be pretty relaxing to me, and I thought this would be a good type of lullaby. The videographer was my wife, Heather Webster, who urged me to put on a different shirt. So she was a big part of it.
That's Chris Nicotera talking about his Tiny Desk contest submission. Next is Shelburne-based artist L.B. Lewis.
My name is L.B. Lewis from Shelburne. I am a full-time student, and I'm a double major in film and urban architecture and design at New York University. Being a student, I have a work study in the production center of my film school, which is like the film rental house. I'm also on the NYU Ultimate Frisbee team. For the past year, I've been working on an album that I actually just released called Man-Made. But this is the first song I wrote after that album that I felt super confident in, and just like felt like I kind of leveled up in a way in my songwriting. And I sent it out to my longest friend, my childhood friend, who is playing the violin. Her name's Stella Ewald. She's like my sister. So the way that we are like grounded whenever we play together is just an experience that has informed a lot of my connection to music and the world. And we practiced for like the 2 days beforehand, and I chose this song because it encompasses a lot of like where I am at now.
Instead of eating dinner, I'll call that saving money, and I'll call myself a winner. I'll call myself a
So
winner.
it was one take, and that was because the setup was actually in my place of work at the production center in NYU, but it was in the shop. So the shop is like where we fix all of the film equipment. And one of my friends, who was also my manager, was like, let's set up the shop as like a tiny repair shop kind of thing. Like they got this whole idea. We used the mics from like sound mixer kits that are for film sets, and C-stands, which is like what you use to hold lights and flags and stuff in film, but we used it for like as a mic stand, which I thought was really cool and gave it this very textured vibe and atmosphere.
The motorcycle that I never got when I was young. My fear hold back my miles. If I ever leave, I know I won't go far. Just to where the grass is green, 'cause that means I have a yard. If I ever love someone.
The second chorus, if I ever leave, I know I won't go far, just to where the grass is green, 'cause that means I have a yard. I am constantly having this battle with myself of like, oh, I want to live so much slower. I want this Vermont life, this beautiful nature, this groundedness that I really only feel when I'm in Vermont. But I feel like I also cursed myself by coming to the city because there's nothing like it at all. And so I feel like this song is also about the hardship of like striking that balance.
That was L.B. Lewis along with Chris Nicotera, Vermont artists who entered this year's Tiny Desk contest held by NPR. You can check out their submissions at our website, vermontpublic.org. Thanks for listening to The Frequency today. We had additional reporting from Bob Kinzel, Lexi Krupp, and Mary Engish. Today's episode was edited by Leah Melder-Connors, and our music is by Blue Dot Sessions. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. Talk to you tomorrow.
Planet Money helps you understand the economy. We find the people at the center of the story.
Garbage in New York, that was like a controlled substance.
We show you how money influences everything.
Tell me what you like by telling me how you spend your money.
And we dig until we get answers.
I had a bad feeling you were going to bring that up.
Planet Money finds out. All you have to do is listen. The Planet Money Podcast from NPR.